All right, making history in Israel, the first neuro-orthopedic rehab hospital in the Negev is opening next week. The hospital will feature 108 rehab beds, as well as Israel's first translational research institute. And for the residents of Israel's Negev, this all means higher quality care and more jobs, thanks to the Jewish National Fund USA and Adi Negev-Nahalat Eran. Joining me in studio to tell us more is head of Adi Negev's Rehab Hospital, Director of the Division of Rehabilitation in the Ministry of Health, and former Director of the Orthopedic Rehab Department at Sheba Medical Center, Dr. Itzhak Siev-Ner, and T. Lungwitz, President of the International Board of Directors of Adi Negev-Nahalat Eran. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, T, I actually want to start with you. What inspired you to want to build this hospital in Israel South?
Well, actually, that's a really easy question to answer because Jewish National Fund USA was easy to align my philosophy with expanding into the Negev, where we certainly need better and more care. And on a mission, I went there to Adi Negev, and we saw the most extraordinary care and the devotion from the staff to the patients or residents was unparalleled. And I fell instantly in love with it, and JNF has brought me to the point where I just want to do more than possible and expose what's going on.
So, Dr. Siev-Ner, what does a hospital like this mean to patients in the Negev?
So until about 5-6 years ago, there was no one single bed of rehabilitation in the Negev. And may I remind you that the Negev is about 60% of the space of Israel. So that meant that most of the people didn't get rehabilitation, or they had to commute to the center of Israel, Levinstein, Tel Aviv, and so on. May I mention that the life expectancy in the Negev is 7 years less than the people in the center of Israel.
And it's directly correlated.
Not all is attributed to rehabilitation, lack of rehabilitation, but we know that people that didn't undergo the process of rehabilitation, they might have a second stroke and the third one, and they might die, and the quality of life is deteriorating. So this is a real message, because when General Reserve Doron Almog, who is the visionary, when he approached me as the chairman of the Council of Rehabilitation in the Ministry of Health, he asked me, does it make sense to build a rehabilitation hospital? And I said, yes, of course, but how are you going to bring the staff? It's easy to build up walls.
Sure.
Easy, not easy, it's a challenge. But how do you bring the state-of-the-art professional staff? And he said, no problem, we shall build accommodations for them, achievable. And my share was, we need, in order to be on the cutting edge of rehabilitation medicine, we need research and education. So we affiliated the hospital to Ben-Gurion Faculty of Medicine, Ben-Gurion University.
I'm reminded of the Field of Dreams quote, if you build it, they will come, in a sense. But okay, so speaking of the research, what is the Future Research Center, and generally, what is the research in the hospital going to include and going to bring forward? Okay,
so in the last decades, there were no significant breakthroughs regarding medications in rehabilitation, making the recovery faster and better. And the whole idea of rehabilitation, which is a teamwork, it's not just doctors, it's nurses, it's physiotherapists, occupational therapists,
patients,
speech therapists, social workers, psychologists, and everybody.
Right.
So the whole goal is to bring the people to the highest level of independence and to engage them in the society, in the family, because hospitals are not the place for those people.
Right.
So if the modern medicine added years to life, the rehabilitation should add quality to the years.
All right, T, what is then the future? What is the next step in the Negev or in general or for this rehab center? Where do you go from here?
I think Dr. Siev-Ner really highlighted that research is maybe behind the rehabilitation, and we go forward from there with cutting-edge kind of research. And JNF, Jewish National Fund USA, is stepping forward with that, along with Adi Negev-Nahalat Eran. And I think we're going to see great things coming out of the research.
Dr. Siev-Ner and T. Lungwitz, thank you both so much for joining us again.
Thank you for having us.